Hello, my name is John, and in this review, I'll be talking about the Nintendo Game Boy. This came out in 1989 by Nintendo, and it's one of my favorite handhelds of all time. I'm going to explain to you guys what I like about the system, what I don't really necessarily like about the system, and why it really revolutionized the handheld industry even today. But before I do this review, I do want to say a special thank you to a fellow YouTuber. His name is Deckhand Davey on YouTube, also known as Davey, and he was very kind and generous. He sent me an HD camcorder. So Davey, thank you very much. It was totally unexpected, totally unnecessary, but thank you so much for your kind generosity. Without any further ado, let's check out the Game Boy. Here is one of the first package designs for the Game Boy when it first came out in 1989. In fact, the copyright on the back of here says 1989, so this is one of the first. It looks like the hands here, it looks like he's holding Nintendo Power Gloves. I don't quite understand what that's about. And it shows the Game Boy being black. It's not black, it's gray, although later on they would come out with different colors of the Game Boy, and there's various different versions of the Game Boy as well that would be later released. This is the official Game Boy compact video game system. You've got on the side here, also you could purchase separately. You could pick up a AC adapter. This is, you could charge this and it would be to go. You had accessories like this little fanny pack you actually take with you and go as well. Here is the back. It shows you two kids connecting with two cables, which I'll explain how that worked a little bit later. Game Boy is state-of-art compact video game system, power in your own hand. It also comes with a powerful CPU and microprocessor, allows complex side-scrolling background, Tetris game pack included, earphones, batteries, and are also included in this. Interchangeable game packs. It's funny they call them game packs, not cartridges. It's very odd. Nintendo would decide to do that. Here's some games, some of the launch titles that came out for the Game Boy. You had tennis, which is a really fun one, baseball, and of course Super Mario Land. I have a lot of fond memories of picking up this game at a place called Lionel's Toyland back in the day. Let's open this up. We have the Game Boy system itself. Now in today's standards it does look fairly bulky, but back in 1989, late 80s, early 90s, this thing was considered, quote, pocket size. And compared to the Atari Lynx, which was also out during this time by Atari, this thing is about half the size of the Atari Lynx. Also comes with a link cable, so you can hook up two Game Boys if you have the same game. So if you both have Tetris or if you both have tennis or any of the sports games, for example, you can actually play two-player. Later on with Pokemon game series, you can actually use this as a networking cable. It comes with earphones. I don't unfortunately have those anymore. I have the owner manual, which is right below there. And this comes with Tetris. Now this game is interesting. There's a big debate as far as who had the rights to Tetris. In fact, Atari and Nintendo went to court over it, because what happened was Tetris came out back in 1984 in the Soviet Union. And what happened was there was about a half a dozen or so companies that claimed rights. Now Atari did have the rights to the arcade port of Tetris. However, they did not have the rights to the home console or the handheld market for Tetris. So what happened was Nintendo went over to the Soviet Union at the time, and it determined that Nintendo did have the rights. They claimed rights to the Tetris for the Game Boy, and this was a hugely popular game. It's one of the reasons, because it was packed in, it sold the most games of any of the games for Game Boy, because it was a pack-in. Not only that, but people wanted to play this on the go, and it's a great port. Later on, Atari would really come out with Tengen, which is a company that they changed the name of it, and they actually released games for the NES, and they had a Tetris for that, and quickly Nintendo sued them. Huge story about Tetris and drama behind it. Here is the system itself. We've got your BA button right here, kind of similar to a Nintendo D-pad. Your directional pad, start, select. On the top here, this is where your games would plug into. Games would come in a plastic case like so. And they have a little niche here, so basically what you do is you plug in the game like so. You turn it on. This is your power light, indicating that there is power to the system. You have also your contrast, so you can make it darker or lighter. You have your volume. This is your cable connects, so you can do that. You also have your headphone jack. You can listen to headphones. It's in mono if you listen to it normally, but if you have headphones, it is in stereo, I believe, as well. And this is where your power, you can get the power jack, so like I explained before. You got your copyright in the back. It runs off of 4 AA batteries. Average life of these batteries are actually 10 to 12 hours, which, considering, that's pretty good considering the Lynx and the Game Gear, which were the two biggest competitors. Those use 6 AA batteries, and that average life was about 4 to 6 hours. So more batteries, half a life. So that was a huge plus for Game Boy. The only thing that I don't like about the Game Boy is it's black and white. There's no backlit. They did release the Game Boy Light later in Japan only, and they fixed that problem. They had a backlit screen to it, and the fact that it's in black and white, that's kind of a lame thing too, because you have to have light hit it right in order to see the screen. And they did have devices later on that you could hook up to it that had light, and that was kind of odd. And they also had different adapters like the printer and other things. They had a webcam kind of thing for the Game Boy as well that they used. It was released in Japan on April 21st, 1989, in North America on July 31st, 89, and later the rest of the world on September 28th, 1990. Actually, it was created by Gunpei Yokoi. He was the same guy who created the Game & Watch series, as well as the Virtual Boy. And now, after the Virtual Boy came out, Gunpei was actually released from Nintendo because that was a failure. But he worked with the Research Development 1 team in Nintendo, and this is what they came out with. Because the Game & Watch line back in the 80s were the LCD kind of handhelds, and they were very successful for Nintendo. And Nintendo wanted something that they could actually do interchangeable games with. There's 691 games released for the Game Boy altogether, which is amazing. Some of my favorite games are obviously Tetris. I like Super Mario Land 2. I have 6 golden coins. I also like Link's Awakening, Legend of Zelda. It had 8-bit graphics, which is very comparable to the Nintendo from back in the day. So the lifetime of this thing was a long time. In fact, when it was sold, actually, the original Game Boy sold 64 million systems altogether, all said and done. It wasn't until 1998 that they released the Game Boy Color, and combined between this and the Game Boy Color, they sold over 118 million systems. It's pretty amazing. There's different variations. They had Game Boy Slim that would come out. They actually had the Super Game Boy, which was a game that you could plug into the Super Nintendo that would allow you to play Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo. That came out in 1994. That was a really cool unit as well. So let's check out some gameplay for this and take a look. Let's power this thing on. I love that sound it makes. And the object of this game is to match up the blocks and lines. The contrast as well, make it darker light. Let's go to the volume, that's max volume. So you're supposed to create a line across, in case you guys haven't played this game. Most people have, I believe. And Tetris is if you get from all 4 blocks. This game was also ported to the Nintendo by the NES, also by Nintendo. So we can get a Tetris here. I love the music. There we go. And it gets progressively harder and faster as you play on. I'm going to show you Super Mario Land as well. Let's turn this on. Overall, this was a launch title for Nintendo Game Boy, as I mentioned, and it sold over 18 million copies of this game, making it the 7th best-selling Mario game ever and the 4th best-selling Game Boy game ever of all time. This was developed by Gunpei Yokoi as well, as I mentioned before, with the Research and Development Team 1. And unlike Miyamoto, who was the creator of Mario Brothers, actually was not involved in the making of this game. Interesting. And one big difference, it is a side-scrolling game similar to Super Mario Brothers, but one big difference is that it's not Princess Toadstool you're saving, it's Princess Daisy, which is different. And the fire power is a lot different as well. It's a really fun game. It controls. There was a sequel to this called Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, which was actually the release. It was an introduction of Wario, and eventually a spin-off of Wario Land was created. Here's a flower. Fireballs are weird. They only go 45-degree angle and up. And those turtles explode. A little different, so. Anyway, definitely a must-have game for the Game Boy, in my opinion. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.